Good afternoon, everybody. I think we should start the session. It's already 12. I hope everybody is energized. I think after the coffee, we all are fresh and energetic. So this session, disaster and disabilities in terms of crisis and management, is something that came up as we wanted to talk about the real thing that was happening, especially in Asia Pacific, as we are facing a lot of disasters. And Gunela here, she was very, she motivated me to do a session about it, and here we are. I think Asia Pacific Regional IGF is something that speaks more that we Asians are up for leadership about internet governance, and we are here to talk about our issues and our voices. Let me start my presentation. I have a small audio visual. It is about the earthquake, the 7.9 earthquake that hit Nepal in April 29th, 2015. So that was like quite devastating. And at that time, when the earthquake happened, our government was not prepared. Though we were listed in the earthquake prone zone, but we were not prepared, and things were very sad in terms of resource management, in terms of technology, in terms of communication. You know, things were not working out. And especially when you talk about people with disabilities, they were people who should have been a priority, but they were like on the least stage. They were not even bothered. And this video shows and speaks about the real voices. I wanted to highlight this video because these are the people who suffered the consequences, and these were the real voices. So, you know, like these people really speak the pain that they went through. I think we should first see the video, and then we'll have the questions. We have few of the presentations aligned, and you can, if you have any questions after the presentations, you can raise your hand and ask the questions, and the speakers would be answering the questions. So, did you see the video? अब तपाईं यहाँ कसरी आउनुभयो? कन्ट्याक्टमा आएको हो। कहाँ हुनुहुन्थ्यो तपाईँ?
म पहिला मेरो घर सिन्धुपाल्चोक।
हजुर, सिन्धुपाल्चोकै हो तपाईँ? अनि भन्नुहोस् न। अनि यहाँ कस्तो छ अहिले, के व्यवस्था छ, तपाईलाई कति सजिलो छ?
धेरै व्यवस्था छ यहाँ।
अनि केही भन्न चाहनुहुन्छ?
भन्न त अब व्यक्तिलाई होइन, हामीले राज्यले भन्ने पालो छ, राज्यले हामीलाई हेर्ने। यस्ता कति दिन बस्नु, त्यसरी भएर कति दिन खानु, हाम्रो घरमा परिवार छ, फ्यामिली छ। मेरो मात्रै परिवार होइन, यहाँ सबैजना यहाँ बस्ने परिवार छ, फ्यामिली छ। एक दिन होइन, 2 दिन होइन, कसरी बस्नु? अब हामी मान्छेहरू चाहिँ सरकारले यस्तो सरकारी यस्तो निकायहरूले चाहिँ कहीँ कतै खाली ठाउँहरू छ भने यस्तो जस्ता नेपालभन्दा जस्तो वासस्थान परिवार हेरेर, कसको परिवार कतिजना छ त्यो परिवार हेरेर वासस्थान स्यासवास कवासको व्यवस्था गरिदियो भने धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद दिन्छु।
हस्, धन्यवाद। तपाईँको नाम? अनि कहाँ बस्नुहुन्छ तपाईँ? अनि भूकम्प जाँदा तपाईँलाई कस्तो भयो? अब कसरी तपाईँले त्यो सिचुएसनलाई ह्यान्डल गर्नुभयो?
जाँदा चाहिँ हाम्रो
हजुर
होटल सञ्चालन गरेको त्यो क्याम्पै अब शनिबारको दिन है त्यो पनि हाम्रो अलिअलि क्याम्पमा भइहाल्छ कि भनिरहेको राम्ररी त चल्दैन त्यही भएर अब नयाँ हो भनेर शनिबार पनि गरिरहेको शनिबार कर्मचारी स्टाफबाट सामान अब त्यस्तो लुक्ने जस्तो ठाउँहरू पनि थिएन 81 भूकम्प आएर सबै नसक्ने मात्रै त्यही 45 क्यारेटहरू लाउने त्यस्तो म न्युली पनि जान नसक्ने अब क्यारेटहरू पिछामा त मिल्दैन नि त त्यो बल्ल बल्ल गएर सबैजना मिलेर त्यो भूकम्पको बेला नि हामी त्यही क्याम्पभित्र बस्यौँ टोयलेटहरूको सामु माटोहरू इँटाहरू सबै झऱ्यो माटोहरू झऱ्यो यतातिर क्याम्पको ठिक उतातिर साइडमा चाहिँ गाह्रो उठाएको रहेछ पछाडि गाह्रो पनि जराइदेखि उठ्यो होइन कस्तो गाह्रो भने त्यहाँ त कहिल्यै नपरेको पनि थिएन धेरै गाह्रो नसक्ने साथीहरू बल्ल बल्ल गएर एउटा जार राखेको टेबल पनि टग्रो त्यो टेबल बल्ल बल्ल टाउको मात्र उठाएको अरू चाहिँ अब जस्ता खस्दै है अब अरू जिउ त चल्दैन नि त राम्रोसँग त्यसरी पछि अनि अलिकति ठुलो भूकम्पको पछि चाहिँ बाहिर चलाउनु आएर बस्छ अहिले चाहिँ अब यहाँ आएर
अहिले यहाँ राम्रो छ तपाईँलाई
राम्रो छ एकाअर्काले सहयोग गरिरहेछ
अनि के भन्न चाहनुहुन्छ केही भन्न चाहनुहुन्छ के भन्न मन लाग्छ तपाईँलाई
मलाई चाहिँ अब जस्तै हामी म त अलिक सक्नु भयो मभन्दा धेरै नसक्ने हुनुहुन्छ त्यसमा चेरोवाला उहाँहरूले चाहिँ उहाँहरूको लागि चाहिँ धेरै सहयोग गर्नु जस्तो लाग्छ
तपाईँको नाम अनि तपाईँले यहाँ के कस्तो छ तपाईँ कसरी बस्नु भएको छ
समस्या त धेरै नै छ विशेष गरी हामी जस्तो मान्छेलाई चाहिँ एकदमै धेरै नै छ के गर्नु है आज अपङ्ग सङ्घमा गएको महासङ्घमा बच्चा दुईटा छ मेरो होइन अनि खेलौनाहरू चाहिँ अब हामीले यहाँ सापटी गरेर पैसा लिएर ट्याक्सी खर्च गर्नु बसमा चढ्न खोजेको हुन्छ देखेर ऊ परको पल्लो बसमा चाहिँ ठुलो ऊ झ्याल छ के अरे ढोका छ त्यहाँबाट हुन्छ नछिर्ने भएर क्या त्यो मान्छेलाई घरको लागेर ऊ त्यो पल्लो बसमा चाहिँ ठुलो झ्याल छ हो त्यहाँबाट जानु है त्यहाँ पनि त्यसले हामी जस्तो मान्छेलाई त बस पनि रोकिँदैन चाहिन्छ ट्याक्सी ट्याक्सीमै जानु पर्दाखेरि 400 त्यो 400 आउँदा जाँदा त्यही बल्ल बल्ल ट्याक्सीलाई भनेर यति मात्रै छ पैसा भनेर
तपाईँहरूले राहत के पाउनु भएको छ कि के कस्तो छ अवस्था
केही पनि भएको छैन
अनि यहाँ कसरी तपाईँहरू अहिले मिलाइराख्नु भएको छ कसरी यहाँ गरिराख्नु भएको छ
रोगी हो होइन म एउटा अपङ्ग हो उहाँ दाइहरू सबैजना चाहिँ डिसेबल हो ल्याप्रोसी हो उहाँहरू अब जस्तो रोगीको ठाउँमा रोगी नै मिल्छ भने जस्तो अब सधैँ त हामीसँग आएर मिल्दैन होइन रोगी नै सबैजना अब जस्तो छ त्यस्तै गरेर बसिरहेको
So after the earthquake, the situation was very tensed in Nepal, and every day we used to see people saying that they had not received resources, they didn't have anything to eat. So what we did was, me and my wife, we started a small relief operation where we started reaching out to people, distributing things that we had. And we started doing that, and we started using internet, social media. Before going to any place, we would put up the status, and people would come up and they would say, I have these many resources, I have 5 packets of biscuits, so would you want to give? So it literally stepped up like that. And later on, we even reached Dolkha, one of the major places which was the epicenter, and we did very big operations there. We provided people with food and other resources. So it was just that we used internet, and during these operations we met all these people, and meeting these people, it was so fascinating that they were in pain, and they would say that I'm like this, I have these resources, and they would further say that, you know, please go and help other people, like people like who have spinal cord injuries. Please help those kind of people. And I think, you know, technology, for me, it completely changed when the earthquake happened. It changed to a point where I define technology for humanity, you know, with which I could communicate and help and get help for people. And for them as well, you know, we are using technology today to voice their issues. So, so these are the issues here. And I think when we talk about crisis management and disasters, you know, these things are very unpredictable. So, you know, we need to further research, we need to talk, we need to do civil society communication, and we need to develop strategies to set minimum standards for facilitating people. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer the questions. I guess I am lucky. Now I'd request Gunela, you know, she's an expert in disability policy making and has been working at national and international level for safeguarding the rights of disabled, to do her presentation.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. And I think the video we have just seen really highlights what people with disability experience in disasters. And I will talk a lot about various issues and policy and so forth, but to actually see people and what they have gone through really puts this into perspective. So I will move a slide, that's it. I'd like to start with some background. We know, according to the World Health Organization, that around 1 billion people live with disability globally, and 80% live in developing countries. So we're talking about a large number of people. Usually it's about 15% of the population, regardless of the statistics that some countries collect that might state it's smaller. It depends very much on how the statistics are collected. We have seen the vulnerability of people with disability and their families. There are physical and information barriers, and again, the video that Sridip showed really illustrate that. It also illustrates the cultural and social attitudes, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that area. And often disaster planning has not included people with disability. To hear the voices of people with disability themselves makes a big difference. Some critical issues, and this is based on surveys and consultations. Persons with disability face higher risks than the general population in a natural disaster. And we can see that for obvious reasons. If a person uses crutches or a wheelchair, it's harder to escape to a safe area. The mortality rate of people with disability proportionally could be twice as high as the general population in a disaster. People with disability are more likely to be left behind. It's just too hard. Humanitarian responses to people with disability may be less due to environmental, physical and social barriers. And again, we saw that in the video. And natural disasters may lead to injuries resulting in long-term disability. So it might be people didn't have a disability, now they do have a disability, or they might have a light disability which turns into a significant disability. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Pacific region. We've heard about Nepal. If we look at the Pacific region, it's an extremely large area with a small landmass, relatively small populations. Majority are small island developing states, and there are 22 countries or territories. So we're talking about a lot of sovereign nations. Transport and infrastructure costs, as you can imagine, are very high. And here's a map of the Pacific region. And that lists all the 22 countries. And you see Australia and New Zealand, and then you see numbers and dots in the ocean. So that's basically those 22 countries. Now, I'd like to cover a case study in Fiji. This year, Category 5 Tropical Cyclone Winston hit Fiji very hard. It's been recorded as one of the strongest storms in the Southern Hemisphere. And there were surveys done by the Fiji Disabled Persons Federation after the cyclone, and these are some of the findings. Persons with disabilities missed out on the distribution of humanitarian aid. So it's a similar theme to what we heard in Nepal. Distribution points were not accessible. That's distribution points of aid. Information circulated on the distribution points were not inclusive of or accessible to all persons with disabilities. Transportation and roads or means to access the distribution points were not accessible and available. And mobility aids were destroyed or damaged in the cyclone. So you can imagine if a person has a wheelchair and that might be damaged or destroyed. And there's, as a follow-up, there's lack of disability disaggregated data. So in other words, it's very difficult sometimes to get the data that's needed. And that's something that needs to be addressed in future. Some of the venues for cluster meetings after the cyclone were inaccessible. Some were, but a number weren't, which means there was a lack of participation by people with disabilities, so their voices weren't heard when it came to what the next steps were. Now, the last one here, number 4, information on warnings and other disaster-related information and updates needs to be inclusive of all persons with disabilities. And that is something I'll be covering through in this presentation. For example, for the deaf community, information should be circulated via text messages. In the Pacific, in Fiji, certainly a large proportion of the population do have mobile phones, so it's a very important way of distributing information. And also through caption videos or sign interpreters on screen if that is appropriate. Okay, so in the Pacific there is a disability-inclusive disaster risk reduction network, and that focuses on raising awareness about physical infrastructure, disaster response services, public service announcements, and emergency exits and evacuation centres. There are 5 Pacific Island countries involved, and this is coordinated by the Pacific Disability Forum. So the role of the Pacific Disability Forum is as a regional disability advocacy body based in Fiji. They perform some very useful functions around capacity building, advocacy, and one of the areas they work in is capacity training for disability organisations on this disaster risk reduction and disaster risk management. And they engage with governments on inclusion of people with disability in disaster risk management. So again, this is a theme coming through this about the involvement of people with disability and disability organisations to ensure that proper steps are taken in future. And if we look at the policy drivers, the obvious one is the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. This has been signed and ratified by over 100 countries across the world and a number of Pacific Island nations, and certainly Asian countries have signed and ratified. Now, two articles that are very relevant here is Article 9, which talks about the implementing measures to design, develop, produce and distribute accessible ICT at an early stage. So these become accessible at minimum cost for people with disabilities. And the other one relevant here is taking all necessary measures to ensure the protection and safety of persons with disabilities in situations of risk, including situations of armed conflict, humanitarian emergencies, and the occurrence of natural disasters. And these obligations, I should add, are for states parties, in other words, governments. So there's a link there to the particular website which outlines the UN Convention. Now also there's the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, and last year a new framework updated the previous one. It's called the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction 2015 to 2030. There are 4 key priority areas. I'm going to mention priority 4, which is enhancing disaster preparedness for effective response and to build back better in recovery, rehabilitation and reconstruction. And it's actually an opportunity when you, when you have buildings and infrastructure that previously was inaccessible for people with disabilities. When they are destroyed, if people with disabilities and disability organisations are part of the planning for reconstruction, those particular facilities in future can be built with accessibility in mind. It's called universal design. And actually, there was another tropical cyclone in Vanuatu, another Pacific Island country. And that's exactly what the disability organisation did there after the cyclone, to encourage buildings to become more accessible when they were rebuilt. This is a very long quote here, but important from the point of view of what we're talking about. So if you bear with me, I will read it out. This is to invest in, importantly, develop, maintain and strengthen people-centered, multi-hazard, multi-sectorial forecasting and early warning systems, disaster risk and emergency communications mechanisms, social technologies and hazard monitoring telecommunication systems. Develop such systems through a participatory process. Tailor them to the needs of users, including social and cultural requirements, in particular gender. Promote the application of simple and low-cost early warning equipment and facilities, and broaden release channels for natural disaster early warning information. Okay, role of stakeholders. Governments have a primary responsibility. We know that. Sometimes it may not happen, unfortunately. And governments should work together with relevant stakeholders, and this includes a number of NGOs. And again, from the Sendai framework, there is a quote there about persons with disabilities are critical in the assessment of that disaster risk and in designing and implementing plans tailored to specific requirements, taking into consideration the principles of universal design. Now, just a couple of months ago, there was a World Humanitarian Summit in Istanbul, Turkey, and there was a lot of preparatory documents, and one of them was from Handicap International, and they did a lot of work in surveys and consultations with people with disability organizations and humanitarian providers. There were actually 769 respondents, and a report was put together, and some of those critical issues I mentioned previously were covered in that report with statistics. At the summit, there was a launch of a charter on inclusion of persons with disability in humanitarian action. Okay, so coming back to this region. So what are the issues of concern? Well, we need increased data, very importantly. We need more support for participation of disability organizations. And we need end-to-end early warning systems inclusive of people with disability. There are many other needs, but I'm just focusing on these 3. If we look at early warning systems, information is vital. We saw that in the video. Standard systems obviously make sense. There's something called the Common Alerting Protocol, CAP. It's an XML-based system for exchanging public warnings between alerting technologies. A range of different technologies can use this protocol. It's an ITU recommendation, X1303, and it's being adopted by many countries. Already USA, Canada, Italy and Australia. There's been implementations in Sri Lanka and Thailand. And what's interesting with this is that content can be delivered in many different formats. It can be delivered by audio, video, text, to mobile phones, radio, TV, and sirens as appropriate. It can be delivered in different languages. And it can incorporate, obviously, multimodal accessibility features. So say, for example, a deaf person prefers getting information via text messaging on their mobile phone. That's obviously a good way of doing that, and there could be other ways as well. Now, it's very timely. In a month, there will be a CAP implementation workshop in Bangkok between the 23rd and 24th of August. And that will cover a lot of practical issues about what's being done, some of the issues that need to be addressed. So if anyone can attend that, that might be very useful information. And I've included a link there to the workshop, nearly there. So looking at international cooperation, how we can all make a difference. Sharing information on current issues with emergency alert systems, including the use of CAP. There are problems. As with any system, it's not perfect. Often it has to do with the way the content is delivered and the awareness of the responders to consider different ways of delivering the information. But let's look at promoting cooperation on various software and hardware solutions, including content creation and the distribution on national levels to enhance the access to systems for disaster risk management. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Gunilla, for that, for those insights and information. Highlighting the concept of combating disaster management in crisis situation, I'd like to request Mr. Koyu for his presentation. He is the CEO of GeoThings. GeoThings provides integrated ICT platform for communities, NGOs, and government agencies on disaster management.
Thank you. So, hi, Koyu, or you can call me Slayer, that would be easier. And I'm from GeoThings, and we're based in Taiwan, so I'm not sure if I have a home court advantage here. Anyway, so I think I still got one slide before this one. Okay. So, I really have a inspired from Grenada's talk because we are building a kind of like a tool, ICT tool for the early warning system or the disaster coordination platform. So I would like to start from this application called iHelp. That's back to 2013. It's a collaboration project that between GeoThings and a kind of like freelancers still in college. So because his parents is not able to listen or neither to speak, so it's kind of hard for their parents to make a call to 911 or emergency call because it's not that easy to describe what is going on and what's happening there. So we came up with this idea for the application is you can quickly select the preset message and send those messages to the 911 system here in Taiwan, connect through the SMS. So that would be much easier for the people who is not able to speak or not able to listen and to report the emergency situation. And further, this application also combines the geolocation information. That means if you were in somewhere that is not easy to tell the address or the location to the responders, this application can also bring up the location information for you. So this is the kind of a start, and we put this project to the UNSDR project for the International Days for Disaster Reduction. So this is a kind of make us feel okay. So ICT tool might really help for the people who use this. Then we extend the idea and collaborate with Asian Development Bank to use this kind of ICT tool in different countries from Armenia, Bangladesh, Philippines, and also Fiji. I will also use Fiji as an example because they're suffering from the typhoons and so on. So we are going to deploy a kind of ICT tool, which is not like IM. So in Taiwan, we use lines, or in states maybe the WhatsApp, that kind of instant message. But usually we will get flooded by those information, and not easy to really trace the what's going on and what kinds of task or action item that we need to do. So here we use an example that is the hurricane or typhoon Winston in Fiji. So there's a lot of floodings going on at that time, this April. So with this kind of tool, the citizen or the volunteer can just use the kind of new report and select the category, take a picture just like you are doing check-in with Facebook or Instagram, and quickly maybe describe the situation, send back to the local government. And then this event will be there on the GIS system or the map, on the OpenStreetMap. So much easier for the humanitarian organization or the local government to know what is going on where and when. So this will be very good, not just for the people who is disabled, but also for the citizens, even for the traveler. They can use this kind of system to report the emergency situation. For the administrator, that will be very easy to see the whole platform, just with this task-based interface, what's going on and where, and you can quickly click on the event and the task, dispatch those tasks for your staff or volunteer. And we also think about during disaster, the infrastructure for communication infrastructure might be affected. So maybe you will see there's a completely no signal at all, or it's kind of a weak signal there. So this application or this tool, you can say that we consider this kind of situation. So you can report those situations in offline mode. Even there's no connection, you will temporarily catch in your smartphone. Or if there's only a very weak signal, maybe you are in a remote area or some place like that, you will just send out, go through the SMS with the coordinates and the text that you would like to let others know. Of course, if you have internet access, we will synchronize with the pictures and so on, all the information. But it's kind of different stages for the synchronize and trying to deliver the latest information, emergency information to the responders, maybe the local government or the NGOs who can really help the people who is in need. And of course, we also extend this system to when the casual times or for other applications, just for the small farmer, maybe they can use this to report the insect or some damage to their agricultures, just the same behavior. You can take a picture and describe the situation and the feedbacks. So the local government who is responsible for the agriculture field or these kinds of situations can really get the information in real time and the response properly. Of course, in Taiwan, we have this kind of system called 1999. So now in Taiwan, we make a call to our local government or a city government about, okay, there's some damage of the road or the tree was down or after typhoon, something like that. But with application, you can just take a picture and auto geotag that and send it back to the local government. So That'll be much easier to report this kinds of accident or emergency situation. So on the, I would like to further echo to the CAP extension, because we also co-work with Sahana team. So I think the CAP workshop in Bangkok was held by that team. So we are now also integrated those informations to be like a kind of early warning system, because there's a two side. One side is early warning to let people know what's going on or what kinds of disaster is coming, and then it's about the response to report the situation. So for the early warning, now we are going to connect the Thailand from Bangkok and also Philippines and Myanmar. Those areas are already providing the CAP early warning alerting information. So we will integrate it to our tool to that people can easily get those kinds of information from this tool. And also people can still use this tool to report what they are run into and what they encountered. So this is kind of like a two-way communication tool for disaster and emergency response. And we are just a software development team and work in different area and different country. So yes, I think we think this kind of ICT tool can really achieve a kind of capacity building, especially for the disaster resilience. Yes, that's about my talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Koyu. Do you have any questions, for Gunela or Koyu? Okay, that's fair enough. Now we have Mubashir. He's a cyber security professional and an internet policy researcher. He also manages the APsec. He's the interim currently and managing APsec. I've heard a lot about Pakistan government doing a lot of research in terms of disabilities, and they are quite doing at policy level also. So do you have any experience, or can you share more about what has been going on, and if you know of any project that is currently going, please do elaborate. Thank you.
Sure, thank you, Sudeep. I'll start from giving you some overview about the disaster that my country has suffered so far. The worst disaster that my country suffered was in 2005. It was an earthquake that hit most of the northern part of my country. The death toll was around 78,000 and more than 2.5 million suffered. And next was the flood that struck my country in 2010. And this flood affected from north to south my whole country. More than 20 million people suffered, and death toll wasn't identified. Just because you can imagine, I was one of the sufferers. The water level inside my own house was more than 6 feet. And the area I was living in was cut off. And we were stuck in the water. Government couldn't approach, rescue authorities couldn't approach. But it was the youth over there that stood. I was among them. I met first with the students of a university that came through with the help of Pakistan Army. They sent them through helicopters. They were the first respondents who approached us. You can imagine how my country suffered. Cyclones, droughts, all kind of disasters are there. If we talk about the north, we suffer lot of earthquakes. If we talk about southern part, we suffer droughts and floods. If we talk about the eastern part, we suffer cyclones over there. But being an underdeveloped country, we are working, but still we are working on introducing more technology to handle these such kind of disasters, to more focuses on our rescue of disabled persons. We have got National Disaster Management Authority in our country that's currently working effectively in our country. But other than this authority, we are having so many organizations that focus especially on the rehabilitation and rescue of disabled persons. As an example, when during the floods in 2010, the organization named as Disabled Persons Foundation, they started an operation. They started working to get a good database of the affected disabled persons. They made announcements through radio. They and made announcements through local government and through provincial government. And the National Disaster Management Authority was also helping them. They collected their database and then they approached all those disabled persons with the help of local communities. So far, if we talk about our organization, I'm from ISOC Islamabad chapter. We are currently developing some applications that can actually, as Kobo has mentioned, Slayer has mentioned, we are developing such applications over there. But the dilemma is that we do not have good infrastructure over there that can survive during the disaster. So as an alternative, we are working on capacity building of local community, that because they are the first respondent. If the disabled persons are living in their neighbors, they can help them out. They can even, if they can contact us to reach out them in case of any disaster or any kind of help they require. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mubashir. Now let's have questions. Anybody? If you have any questions for our speakers. From Pakistan, for the record. It's not actually a question, it's just a comment on the application that our friend Sayer actually was mentioned from GeoThings. I mean, in the Asia Pacific, if you see, we have got a very variation in terms of languages. Asia Pacific is home to probably more than 50% of the languages that are used across the globe. So if your application is in a single language, or so that's going to be a big barrier for different communities. For example, if the same application people want to use it in Nepal or Pakistan or Malaysia, so they won't actually be able if it is in English or a particular language. So this kind of this is one of the major barrier to these kind of applications. If I'm not wrong, the geofencing or the geotagging technology is being used by different messaging applications like WhatsApp or something. So people can simply take a picture and geotag it and send it to some authority for location or something else. But what the unique feature or the specialty that applications the ones that you are developing should have is like localization, so that more and more communities in the region are able to use these applications, because that's universality principle. That is something that is going to benefit a lot in terms of access and usage. So if it does have the universality feature in different languages, it is good. If it is not, so it's just a suggestion that you should incorporate this kind of.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, yes, we definitely need to have that. And that's the reason why we choose from Armenia, Bangladesh, Philippines, and Fiji. It's kind of like a different culture, even language, and so on. So we do that step by step. First, we provide the English version. And then we have a local consultant to help us to do the localization. But for the area or the country that is not in this pilot area, we need to have a maybe directly collaboration with the community and so on. For some of the volunteer can do the translation for local language. But yes, we definitely need to do the localization because now we're much easier for the people to use this kind of tool. Thank you so much.
I think I'd also like to add something to that. For even localization, you can use community networks. You know, there would be people, leaders, internet leaders who would be ready to help you, especially with Internet Society, or, you know, you can seek help there. Any more questions?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Sendai framework likewise mentions about mainstreaming gender in disaster risk management, right? I was just wondering if the apps that are being developed as well also consider the needs, the services that may be provided to women, for instance, especially women with disabilities.
Actually, we did not consider about the men, women, and the kind of like a gender difference, because this is more like for the citizen or the volunteer to report the situation quickly. So according to like a Sendai framework, and recently they have like a Sendai 7, right? Sendai 7 campaign. Yes, I think we still need to do that, just like I mentioned, step by step. First, we have this kind of general tool, maybe for the citizen or the casual people that can use. Then we can do more about maybe people who is disabled and so on. So yes, currently we haven't considered about the gender difference. We need to do that.
Mubashir, what do you think? Do you have any suggestion how can we incorporate such things in the applications?
Well, perhaps we can talk later. We have a lot of experiences in the Philippines as well. I'm from the Philippines, and yeah, we have a lot of disasters there. And yeah, we have to consider whenever we work with or engage with people who are working with disaster, we always consider the different specificities, the different needs of women, for instance, because we cannot say that men and women have the same needs. Or for instance, when you talk about women would have children, for instance, they're the ones taking care of the kids of older people as well. And when disaster strikes, it is them who are also, you know, taking care of their families, and even after disaster, they also look for jobs, things like that. So I think it would also be good to consider that.
Satish Babu for the record. First of all, a comment regarding the asymmetry of gender in disaster situations. My experience has been with the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, where we had a very severe difference between men and women, the way they responded to the disaster. There is this concept of modesty, which applies exclusively to women, especially in South Asia, which prevents them from doing things even to save their own lives. For example, when they were swept away by the tsunami waters, they were more concerned about, you know, holding their clothing together than to, like, they became nude, they wouldn't think of coming out of the water. So these kind of very deep cultural, you know, kind of, what shall I say, biases, or, you know, these, we had to work with this when you look at the whole issue of gender and disaster. But the intersectionality aspect of gender and disability and disaster, that's even worse. When you have gender itself is a kind of setback. On top of that, when you have disability, it's a very bad combination. And unless we have very specific mechanisms to address the social aspects of these things, it's going to be a problem. Now, my comment is actually regarding something else altogether. This asymmetry of preparedness, disaster preparedness, risk reduction, the issue of disability is very much there. I've already mentioned about things like the warnings are not heard by the deaf people and not seen by the blind people, and therefore we need multicultural. This whole CAP thing of multimodal deliveries, I think this is very important. But there's also an asymmetry in the assistance. Post-disaster, when people come for assistance, many of the disabled do not even get access to the assistance that is there, due to many constraints, including mobility, which is a major thing. We have, for example, cyclone shelters, which are built for the express purpose of protecting people. But the people who cannot walk are not able to reach the shelter itself in the first place, even the very basic things. Coming to the issue of technology, I think technology can do a lot. This CAP is a great idea. It is not disseminated to sufficient number of countries in Asia Pacific. Now that everybody has got a mobile phone, definitely there is a lot of potential. But still, mobile phone access itself is asymmetric. Women do not have access. Yesterday we were listening to a village in India which decided, the village council decided that women should not get mobile phones. Unmarried women should not get mobile phones. So these sort of things are still very deep in our cultures. So we have to work with them. So I think now we have technologies which can actually make a deeper impact. And I'm all for dissemination of these kind of technologies to the larger Asia Pacific, our cultures. Thank you.
Thank you, Satishji. If we have any more comments or questions.
Shurdeep, I just wanted to, it was just a small comment I wanted to make with regards to the situation in Nepal. What support did once you'd actually sort of like set up this technology innovation, what sort of support did you get from the government? I mean, and similarly, where do governments feature in this in regards to support? Similarly with your app.
If you talk about Nepal, after the earthquake, the government, it literally pulled its hand saying, we do not have resources, we do not have people. So it was like said properly in the news. The people, we were like quite devastated when this thing happened. So what happened was the government pulled its hand, and for days there was like nothing. There were people, police, the security forces people were helping. They were like a headless chicken. They were just helping people. And the thing was, people, the youth, they come up. That was something so beautiful about the whole experience, that the youth came up and they started moving around, because at that time it was very shameful that the government was not able to reach people, public, but the news TV channels were there, every other person was there, every other person was uploading videos, but the government was not there. Technology at that time was like, it was like on and off. So the government was just waiting and watching, and we could hear them, saying that they are working, they are managing, they are trying to do stuff, but on practical grounds, we did not see anything that was happening. So that is the reason why my frustration was that, if I as an individual could do so much, then where was the government? So that was my thing. And that's the shame, I guess, that people still take for granted these kind of issues, especially when Nepal is already listed in earthquake-prone zone. Then what about the preparation? What about all the NGOs, or what about all the money that is going in, right? So things were supposed to be there, but things were not. So right now, after the earthquake, there has been a certain movement, the ministry and the management, they are trying to work on it, but still at public policy level, no research, no surveys, no nothing. And I think without that, we cannot do anything. At individual level, you have to reach the public, you have to do the surveys. take their questions, and there were some of the there were some of the opening session done, but I think it was not addressed to priorities. Priorities were not prioritized. So so that was the thing. If you'd like to answer.
I would like to add one more. Is I'm not sure if Kathmandu Living Lab is well known in this response of earthquake, because from technical side, we know that a group of people, they launched the kind of a framework to get the information from people, maybe through the telephones or SMS and so on, and they collect those information and confirm with those people who report the situation. Once it's confirmed, and then pass the information to the Nepal army, like that. So they it's kind of like a coordination platform that formed by a private sector or organization called the Kathmandu Living Lab. So I think this is also a way to use technology for this kinds of information retrieval and also for the response in this case.
After the earthquake, I think, and I think few of the private organizations were working, but at government level there was no initiation. And I have a small statement. Hiroshi, he has made a statement. I live to tell the theme of the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction set out by UN for this year. Internet community must respond this international action to listen to survivors. So he has just posted in from remote participation. Any more comments, suggestions? I would like to further ask Gunela about policy research and awareness in regards to disabilities. What sort of process should we go on about making further better policy in terms of securing and safeguarding the disabilities people's right, and in regards to disaster management?
Thank you, Shridip. The disability movement has a saying, nothing about us without us. And I think that's fundamental. So if there are any meetings, I mean, we talked about the case study from Fiji where the planning and coordination of relief after the cyclone needs to include people with disability and disability organisations. So that's on a practical level. But when it comes to policy, there needs to be that input by disability organisations. So, for example, at that the CAP implementation workshop, again, that's practical, but it also includes a lot of policy development. There really needs to be representation there. I believe there isn't, and I'd be very happy to be corrected. And so, if there are any meetings, any policy documents to be developed when it comes to disaster risk management and reduction, the relevant organisations of disability should be invited to sit at the table, and that could be at a national level and a regional level, and certainly at an international level. And we do have, I mean, there's the UN organisations, which we talked about, and previously disability had not been included, but there has been lobbying by international disability organisations to ensure that they have a seat at the table, and that sort of work needs to be continuing. So, for example, here at the Regional Internet Governance Forum, we really do need to have more representatives from disability organisations to be able to explain their experiences. As we've heard in that video, we heard from people with disabilities how they experienced it. So when I was saying the words about cultural barriers, that was actually spoken in the video, and that is a very strong message which we all need to hear. Thanks.
Thank you, Gunilla. I think the different angles that we made in this session was quite interesting and vast, I guess. I hope all the leaders present here, you guys would certainly lobby issues from your part of your industry, and do the necessary preparation as well as raising issues and voices. I'd like to thank all my speakers for the brilliant presentations and speaking and the knowledge and information that they shared. And I'd like to say that we have made it, and like it's exactly one, and yeah, and thank you all for attending. Thank you.